Hey folks, I am back. I'm just going to share with you a really quick recipe. I am preparing some Mexican food for dinner tonight. And so for in place of corn chips for the salsa and the guacamole, I'm going to make some Parmesan crisps. And so I thought I would share that recipe with you real quick. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got Parmesan cheese right here. And into my little mixing bowl here, I'm just going to put equal amounts of Parmesan cheese and almond flour in there. So here's a half a cup of Parmesan cheese. Okay, so 1 cup of Parm. Put the lid back on there. And an equal amount of almond flour. Cup. So it's 1/2. And another half, so that's 1 cup of each. So you can make this smaller if you want, as long as it's equal amounts of Parmesan cheese and almond flour. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to grab my chopsticks here and give this all a good mix up. Okay. And so now what I'm going to do is I've soaked some ancho chilies right here for some of the food I'm cooking tonight. And the water in there, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of water first into here and start mixing it up. And that way it's going to give it a nice little a chile flavor. It's going to be a little bit different, and it's going to go good with the guacamole and the pico de gallo. So I'm just going to start in with just a couple of teaspoons right there first, and then give it a good mix. And we just want to mix that up until we get a nice dough formed. These are really quick because they are done in the microwave. And so get in there with your hands. You don't want to get too much moisture in this because you want them to get crisp. And if you got too much moisture, it won't do that. Okay. Okay, that is perfect. That is perfect. So I'm going to take that and put that aside now. That way you can see the dough. That is what it is. Just mix it up really good. Give it some good kneading. It'd probably be better if this was warm, but I didn't want to take the time to heat it up. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this here cutting board. And what I got here is some parchment paper. I'm going to put this down on the parchment paper, and then as much as I can with my hands, flatten it down. I mean, if you're one of the OCD types and like everything perfectly shaped, I mean, you can take the time to do that and make them perfectly square or perfectly round or whatever. But I don't do that because it all eats the same. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I got another piece of parchment paper. I'm going to put this on top. There we go. Push it down, start squeezing it. And then I'm going to take my rolling pin here, and I'm going to roll this out just as thin as I can get it. And I'm going to leave it on the bottom piece of parchment paper. And what I did is I just took the tray out of the microwave, and that's what I'm going to put them on. Okay, I have it all rolled out. What I'm going to do now is I just got some chili powder here, and I'm going to just do a light dusting over the top to give it more of that, I don't know if you want to call it Mexican flavor or not, because just because something got chili powder in it doesn't make it Mexican food. It's like just because it's rice though doesn't mean it's Chinese food. But just put some chili powder over it, and it gives it a nice flavor that goes with the guacamole or the pico de gallo that you're doing. And then to that, I'm going to get my knife here, and I'm just going to cut these into little squares. I'm probably going to do a 1-inch square. You want to cut this before you do it in the microwave. So a sharp knife, a pizza cutter would work, or whatever you got. Just cut them into as big a squares as you want them, but the bigger they are, the less crispy they're going to be. So I try to keep it down pretty small, at least 1 inch or smaller. And just give it another good cut, just like that. And when you're making this dough, your 2 tablespoons of water that you're putting in here, you could be anything. You can flavor it with, you know, you can put jalapeno juice in there or whatever, but just be careful with the vinegar, because jalapeno juice is usually vinegar, and that's not going to work. So if it's like ancho chili water, something you soaked in there, some mushroom water, whatever you're doing, you can flavor it up a bit. Okay, I think I got these as big as I want them and cut up just like I want them. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this piece of parchment paper here and put it on that tray as best I can. I got them a little bit big, but that's okay. They'll just have to deal with it. And then I'm going to put this in the microwave. I'm going to set the microwave for 90 seconds, and then I'm going to take it out. And I'll be right back after that 90 seconds to show you what they look like. Okay, folks, these are done. So what I've decided to do is after I cut off here, I decided to show you two different types of way I do these. One is just like this, you roll them. I mean, these are really thin and they're very crunchy, and they're more like a really thin chip, which are good to eat for snacking or you know, like a thin ranch. I don't know what you want to put on some kind of dip. But I also make them a little bit thicker, about twice the size. As you can see, you know, the thickness is different there. And these ones are not quite as crunchy as these ones. These are really crisp, really crunchy. But these ones are more like a cracker. And so these are really better for dipping stuff like guacamole and, you know, the thicker types of dips. They're not as crisp, they're not as crunchy, but they're really good. So those are two types of crisps that I do. You know, one's got the chili powder, they're a little bit spicy. One does not. These are just regular crisps. You know, you just sit there and eat them with any kind of, actually, you probably do guacamole with them if you're careful, or it's gonna be breaking off just like a regular chip. So anyway, folks, that is what it is. Very simple, very quick. These ones, the really thin ones in the microwave, 90 seconds, they are done on high. These ones here, they're the thicker ones, they take about 3 minutes. But you can, with these ones, you can play with the time on your microwave because everybody's microwave is different. So the longer you cook them, you know, if they start to turn golden brown like this, these would probably get crunchier, but I stop it before that because I don't want it quite crisp and, you know, crunchy like that, because I want them for dipping really thick stuff, and that's what I made them for. So anyway, folks, there it is. That is just one version of Parmesan Crisps. There's 1,000 videos on these things on YouTube, but this is just the way I do it. So hopefully you like it. My next video is going to be on, I'm doing a mashed cauliflower, and that will be out here just in a couple of days. And so next time, folks, God bless and good eats.